Hey guys, it's Teaksy here and welcome back to the channel. So it's been just under 2 weeks since Call of Duty 2022 was announced and confirmed as Modern Warfare 2, a sequel to Modern Warfare 2019, and in today's video guys, I'm just going to be going through a few categories, going through a few things that I would like to see in this year's game. I've broken it down into categories and put timestamps down in the description below if there's anything in particular that you guys wanted to jump to. So, we're kicking it off today guys, talking a little bit about gameplay. So, firstly, I want to see a more basic movement system this year. I don't know whether we're going to get it or not. I feel like we've had 2 or 3 years now of this slide cancelling meta, and for me it's just not something that I really enjoy, especially with tactical sprint. I think tactical sprint has got to go. I think that's probably one of the reasons why I liked Cold War the most out of the last 3. I just feel like the slide cancelling is so overpowered with the speed of tactical sprint in there as well, and I feel like it's just time to kind of move away from the slide cancelling meta. I also feel like squad spawns need to go. I think Modern Warfare 2019 and Vanguard squad spawns was a big part of why I didn't enjoy the multiplayer experience. And I'm also hoping that they stick with kills/assists, which they had in Modern Warfare 19, rather than sort of eliminations or enemies killed in action that we've got in Cold War and Vanguard, just because I feel like with kills and assists, you just know where you stand a little bit more. You either get the kill or you don't, rather than sort of, when you get, sometimes you can get some really, really crazy numbers of eliminations, but actually you didn't really do that well. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about maps. I think that maps were a big part of Modern Warfare 19's problem. I think the map design on that game really wasn't that great. It made for some really, really slow gameplay. And I think that, maps are such a huge part of multiplayer and whether or not you have a good experience or not. I know it's always exciting when a new Call of Duty drops, when there's new maps that you've never played before. It's always fun, trying to learn new maps and seeing if you're going to, if they've made a classic, something that's going to become, one of the best maps in history, and, maps that you can create memories on. But I would like to see some remasters though. I think that we're at a point now where we've had Call of Duty out for so many years. I know it's always kind of split 50-50 whether people like it, whether they don't. I think as long as there's enough new maps mixed in with remasters, I don't think people mind. But it would be good to see some remasters, especially stuff like Favela, High Rise, Trailer Park for example, and then you've got Modern Warfare 3, stuff like Resistance, Bootleg, Mission, just sort of maps that in my opinion were decent, but we don't really see that much of. We get Shipment every year, we've had a lot of Terminal. I was a big fan when they brought Hard Hat back in Modern Warfare 19, because I feel like that was a decent map that we don't see that often. So it'd be good to see some remasters, but hopefully they bring back some of the good maps that we maybe haven't seen as much of. Next up is class setups, sort of /weapons/perks. I kind of put all of these into one together. I think that we need to have more basic class setups. I think that the Gunsmith was good when it was originally brought in on Modern Warfare 19, but I think over the last few years it's just kind of run its course in my opinion. I mean, on Cold War you had so many attachments and basically you just used the same 5 on every weapon. You had all these attachments to the game that you didn't use. For me, Vanguard is just extremely confusing. I think if I played the game a little bit more and made an effort to actually learn what all the attachments were, that would probably help, but there's just so much going on, and I think we just need to move back to a more basic class setup in my opinion. I think that there's just way too much going into classes now, and when you've got all these attachments and you only use certain ones, just seems a little bit pointless to me. I think in terms of perks, I think obviously the #1 perk that everybody's probably thinking of this year is Ninja. Obviously it wasn't in Modern Warfare 19 as a perk. I think it has to be as a perk this year. I think that with the sort of headsets people have got these days, when you're forcing everybody to not use Ninja, it really can ruin the experience, and it makes it very difficult to make any kind of plays. I also think we need a few less perks. I feel like Vanguard, there's just so many perks in that game, and I think for me COD was always a lot better when there was a lot less going on, less perks, but perks that are actually useful, perks that people use, rather than just having loads and loads of perks in the game that people don't really use. Possibly a return of pro perks as well. I mean, obviously it's been a lot of years since we've had that. It was always quite cool when you had a perk and then you had to complete a certain challenge, and then made that perk a little bit better, or it did something a little bit extra when you had it as a pro. I think that was pretty cool. But obviously it kind of fit in a lot better when we used to have a prestige system, when you'd prestige and lose everything and have to get pro back, whereas now with the way the prestige system works now with the kind of seasonal prestige, I'm not sure if it would have the same effect having pro perks as it used to have. I think certain old perks need to stay away, stuff like One Man Army, stuff like Last Stand. Don't get me wrong, I was a massive fan of the One Man Army, Dangerous Close noob tubes. I was there, I did it, I dropped nukes with it, as many players did, had a lot of fun with it. It was so overpowered, but I think it's got to stay in the past on the original Modern Warfare 2. I think if they brought it back now, it would just be tedious, everybody be doing it, and I think it would just make the game absolutely horrible. I think another obvious one that is kind of, you think of it now every year that COD comes out, is that Ghost needs to force movement. I think that was one of the biggest problems on Modern Warfare 19, was the fact that with the Ghost perk, you could just sit in a corner and not move, and it would keep you off the radar. Obviously, it made for a lot of camping, and I think that's quite an obvious one now, that Ghost needs to force players to move. Because I think, you know, especially in Vanguard and Cold War, I think it's definitely helped a little bit with the way people play. And if you do have somebody who plays like a bit of a bitch, sits in corners, you know, you can find them, so that's quite handy. I think, obviously, in terms of weapons, we need to see some classics return. I think the Intervention Sniper is definitely up there. I think the ACR, whether it's the Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 3, I don't know. I think the Modern Warfare 3 one, for me, stood out a little bit more as a better weapon. But either or would be absolutely fine. I think the UMP's got to come back from Modern Warfare 2. I know it was in Modern Warfare 19 as the striker, but it really wasn't the same. It was nowhere near as powerful as the UMP, so I think I'd like to see the original UMP come back. Maybe the guns like the TAR-21, the Sky. You know, there's so many iconic weapons in the history of the Modern Warfare series. I think we need to see some of them return this year. And I think as well, just, you know, they need to try and avoid what we had with Vanguard. You know, there's always something that's broken when a new COD releases, or somebody finds something. It's always the case, you know, it's going to happen, but they just need to try and avoid what happened on Vanguard, where you had the shotgun meta, you know, for way too long. I think shotguns ruined Vanguard for way too long. It took way too long to get that fixed, and I think that they need to just try and make sure they're a bit quicker maybe on fixing anything that's broken. And the last thing I think for me is that there needs to be a good camo grind this year. For me, I did the Black Ops Cold War one because I felt like the challenges were pretty decent. I didn't bother with the Vanguard one. A lot of that was due to the fact that I didn't really enjoy the game, but a lot of the challenges for me were just very, very boring. You know, having to use, you know, just get headshots with different attachments on, you know, it was just a bit dumb to me. You know, you already had headshots as its kind of own one, and then you'd have like headshots getting with certain attachments, or you get kills with certain attachments, and for me that just wasn't enjoyable. I don't, and that's why I didn't bother going with it. Very briefly, just going to touch on game modes. I think I'd like to see them do what they did in Modern Warfare 19 in Modern Warfare 2022, and just bring back loads and loads of game modes. I know there's a lot of game modes out there that probably don't get played, but I feel like, you know, Vanguard's just very low on game modes. I really don't feel like there's much that you can play over on Vanguard, but stuff like Capture the Flag, Cyber Attack, Demolition, maybe Sabotage, Headquarters, just chuck them all in there. I think it's just better to have more game modes, more variety. You know, I think it's always useful to have more modes, and I think that's one of the things Vanguard struggles with, is you really do not have that much to play on top of your standard kind of team deathmatch, free-for-all, domination, hardpoint, and stuff like that. Killstreaks, I think there needs to be decent killstreaks in the game. I think Modern Warfare 19 did a really, really good job with killstreaks. You felt like you could do a lot of damage with stuff like chopper gunners and, you know, like the really high killstreaks. I'd like to see the return of like kill chain, or possibly a change to the system. Obviously, kill chain was a perk in Modern Warfare 19, which meant, for example, if you got a cruise missile and you got like a double kill with it, that could then get you like to your VTOL jet, which was how the kill streaks used to work in Modern Warfare 2, the original Modern Warfare 2, without a perk. You know, if you got a Predator missile, you got 2 kills with it, it would get you your Harrier airstrike. I'd like to see it either go back to that original system, or at least give you a perk where you can do that. I always felt like this was a good way of helping players who maybe struggle with this system. I feel like, you know, Treyarch have always done a really, really good job with score streaks. I always think score streaks, rewarding players to play the objective, has always helped, you know, improve Treyarch titles, and also improved the experience for everybody. Feels like everybody has a chance of getting streaks. I imagine that Infinity Ward and with Modern Warfare, I imagine they won't bring score streaks to this game. It'd be huge if they did, but I imagine they will stick with the original kind of kill streak system that they've always had, like what we've got in Vanguard, but at least bring back kill chain to allow that kind of help of using one streak to get to another, or go back to the original system that we had all the way back in Modern Warfare 2, where, you know, any kills you got with streaks counted towards next time. So for example, you got Harrier airstrike on Modern Warfare 2, that could get you to your chopper gunner, that could get you to your nuke. That used to be massive, that used to be huge. Would love to see something like that return. And I think overlapping streaks would be huge, but again, I feel like when it's done via kills, you know, rather than sort of the score streak system, it can be a bit difficult to overlap. I guess the only way they could do it would be you could overlap, so once you've got to your top kill streak, you then reset again, but I imagine you couldn't maybe get to a nuke via your streaks or something that way. I don't know, but they could do it. I think they should try and do it, but I know it's probably a little bit more difficult than it is with score streaks. But that's kind of the main things I wanted to talk about, guys. I think overall, I think it's a really, really big year for COD. I'm absolutely fine with it being back on the Modern Warfare series. I always think the Modern Warfare series has done very well. Very much like the Black Ops series. I think if they do it right, people will enjoy the game. And obviously this is the first time that we're going into a 2-year cycle, and I think it's vitally important that they hit the ground running this year. I mean, I know they've got a lot of time to improve the game if it's not that good on release, but I think ideally they need this 2 years to be, they make a decent game and then they build on top of that decent game rather than trying to make a bad game good, because we've seen that the last couple of years and everything happens too late. I think they really need to hit the ground running with this game, and I'm really hopeful that they will do it. As a bonus, I'd love to see the OG prestige system return, but I really can't see them moving away from seasonal prestige with the way everything goes now and all being integrated into Warzone. And I think proper titles and emblems would also be, it'd be good to see them return. You know, it always used to be a big thing back on like the original Modern Warfare 2, you know, trying to get a certain amount of kills with certain kill streaks to get the title, and then like you got the, obviously the kill streak emblems, the ones that were actually active and moved. And, you know, like going for like the gold skull titles, which was get like 1,000 headshots with certain guns. I think they need stuff like that to really encourage people to grind the game. And I'd just love to see the return of proper leaderboards and a proper combat record, because Vanguard, in my opinion, has done really awful in that department. I know Cold War did well, Modern Warfare 19 did well with their sort of system, so I imagine it will be a decent leaderboards and combat record system returning. But just don't do it. For me, Vanguard has just ruined a lot of basic stuff like that, which makes games good. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do hit the like button down below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys. Let me know down in the comment section. Do you agree with me? Disagree with some of the things I said? What do you guys want to see in this year's Call of Duty? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you are brand new around here and want to find your way back for more, please do consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, guys, I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.